The factory never slept. Day and night, heavy machines moved like monsters made of iron. Their arms swung down with loud crashes. Sparks flew in the air. The floor shook with every strike. Steam hissed from broken pipes. The smell of burning metal filled the dark halls. Inside this world of noise and danger, humans worked like ants. They followed the rhythm of the machines, careful not to step too close. One wrong move could mean disaster. Nobody had time to look around. Nobody had time to wonder if something strange was hiding in the shadows. But on this night, something strange had come. In the far corner of the factory, where the lights were weak and the smoke was thick, a small figure slipped inside. She was quiet, almost invisible. Her steps were soft, lighter than a feather on the dirty floor. She looked around with wide eyes, eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. They were not human eyes. It was a girl, an alien girl. Her skin shone with a pale blue glow, soft like moonlight. Thin silver lines ran across her arms as if carved there by hands not her own. Her hair was long, flowing like liquid light. She did not belong here. She did not belong in this world of fire, steel, and noise. She stood still for a moment, frozen, as if listening. Her ears were sharp, pointed slightly, twitching at every sound. She seemed afraid, yet curious. The machines roared louder, making her flinch, but she did not run away. She took one step forward, then another. Nobody noticed her. Not yet. High above the ground, on a steel walkway, a man worked. His name was Jack. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and tired from long hours. His hands were covered with grease, his shirt soaked in sweat. He had been fixing broken belts all night. Like the others, his eyes were focused on his task. One mistake, and the machines could eat him alive. But then, something caught his eye. At first, Jack thought it was nothing. A shadow moving in the smoke. Maybe just steam, or maybe his tired brain playing tricks on him. But then it moved again. A small figure, too small to be a worker, too strange to be a human child. Jack froze. He narrowed his eyes, trying to see more clearly. The figure stepped into a dim light. Jack's breath caught in his throat. He had never seen anything like her. A girl, glowing faintly, skin shimmering blue, eyes bright like stars. She looked lost, fragile, afraid. "What the hell?" he whispered to himself. He blinked, thinking maybe he imagined it. But when he opened his eyes, she was still there, looking around, walking slowly into the maze of machines. Jack's heart beat faster. This was impossible. Children were never allowed inside. Workers were careful. Guards checked every entrance. No one could just walk in. And yet, here she was, an alien girl in the middle of a human factory. Jack leaned forward on the railing, trying not to lose sight of her. Down below, the girl tilted her head, listening to the thunder of the machines. She did not understand them. She did not understand the danger. She stepped closer. Jack's hands gripped the railing tighter. He wanted to shout. He wanted to call her back. But something stopped him. He knew the machines were too loud. She would never hear his voice, and if he shouted too loud, others would notice. The wrong kind of people, the ones who asked too many questions. Jack's eyes followed her every move. The girl's small feet left faint glowing prints on the dirty floor. She seemed to shine brighter the deeper she walked into the darkness. Every step was filled with quiet wonder. She touched the cold steel walls with her fingers. She stared at sparks flying from welding machines, eyes wide with both fear and amazement. Jack felt a strange pull in his chest. Something inside him whispered, "She doesn't belong here. She needs help." But before he could move, before he could climb down and reach her, the sound of metal crashing filled the air. A giant machine arm lifted high above her head, ready to slam down. She was walking straight into its path. Jack's heart skipped a beat. He wanted to look away, but he couldn't. His eyes were locked on her small, glowing figure. The danger was too close. The moment was too sharp. The girl stopped. She looked up at the massive machine as if sensing its power, but she did not understand. She tilted her head, curious. Jack's hands shook. His breath grew shallow. "Don't," he whispered, though she could not hear. The machine groaned. Its arm swung, lower. The ground shook. Jack leaned forward as far as he could, his whole body tense, every muscle ready to move, and in that moment time itself seemed to slow. The alien girl stood in the shadow of a monster made of steel. The human man stood high above, the only one who had seen her. The factory roared, careless, blind to the fragile life about to be crushed. The story had only just begun. Jack could not take his eyes off the girl. The factory was still alive with thunder, machines pounding, sparks bursting, gears grinding like angry beasts. Workers moved like shadows, each locked in their own world of labor. But none of them saw her. Only Jack did. High on the steel walkway, he leaned against the railing, his heart racing. His mind screamed at him to call for help, to warn someone. But his instincts told him something different, something deep, something primal whispered, "Keep quiet. Watch." The girl was not normal. She could not be. Her glow was faint but steady, like the soft light of a lantern in fog. In this place of smoke and shadows, that glow made her stand out, and yet no one noticed. Was she hiding on purpose? Or was the world simply blind to her? Jack's breathing grew heavy. He wiped his hands on his dirty shirt, leaving streaks of grease. He forced himself to stay calm. He had seen strange things in the war years, machines that moved without humans, skies burning red with ships that did not belong to Earth. But this was different. This was a child. She did not look like a soldier or a spy. She looked lost, fragile, like she had stumbled into a world far too cruel for her. Jack shifted his weight. His boots clanged softly on the walkway, and for a terrifying moment, he thought she might hear him. But the girl kept moving. She turned her head from side to side, her glowing eyes wide with wonder. She touched the edge of a conveyor belt, feeling the cold iron as if it were something precious. Jack frowned. He had seen workers lose fingers to those belts. Some lost arms. One mistake, and you were gone. But the girl touched it like a child, touching water for the first time. She didn't know. Jack's jaw tightened. His instincts screamed again. She's not safe. She doesn't belong here. You're the only one who sees her. But another thought pressed into his mind. Why only me? The others moved right past her. A man walked only a few feet away carrying a box of heavy tools. He didn't even glance at her. He didn't flinch at the glow. He didn't stumble over the faint prints she left on the dirty floor. It was as if she didn't exist. Jack's stomach twisted. Was she invisible to everyone else? Or was he the only one chosen to see her? He closed his eyes for a second. His head spun. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. He had been working too long, breathing too much smoke. His brain was tired, playing tricks on him. That was all. But when he opened his eyes, she was still there. Real. Solid. Moving deeper, into the maze of machines. Jack cursed under his breath. The girl suddenly stopped. She tilted her head, listening. Her ears, slightly pointed, sharper than human, twitched at the sound of grinding gears. Her glowing eyes flicked around, as if searching for something, or someone. Jack felt his chest tighten. For a moment, it was as if she could sense him. Her gaze lifted upward, slow and deliberate, until it almost met his. Jack froze. Her eyes passed over him. Close. So close. But she didn't stop. She looked away, back at the shadows. Jack let out the breath he had been holding. His knees felt weak. This was madness. If anyone else saw her, they would panic. They would call the guards would drag her away, and Jack knew what happened when guards dragged someone away. Questions, experiments, disappearance. Something about her told him she had already suffered enough. He didn't know why. He felt that. He had no proof. But every line of her glowing face, every uncertain step, every shiver of her small body in this hostile place, it all told him the same thing. She was running from something. Jack leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. He could almost hear her breathing, soft, quick, afraid. Down below, the girl paused again. This time, her hand touched a metal panel on the wall. She pressed her small fingers against it. Suddenly, the faint silver lines on her arms flickered, glowing brighter. Jack's eyes widened. The panel responded. Lights flickered. Sparks cracked. The machine attached to the wall shuddered, as if waking up. The girl yanked her hand back, startled. Her glow dimmed quickly. She looked around nervously, afraid she had been caught. Jack's heart pounded. She wasn't just strange. She wasn't just lost. She was connected. The machines responded to her. That explained everything, and nothing. Jack stepped back from the railing. His boots scraped the metal. He didn't care anymore if she noticed. He needed to move. He needed to find a way down. Because now he knew the truth. This girl was no accident. She hadn't wandered in by mistake. She was tied to this place in ways no human could be. And if the wrong people found out, Jack swallowed hard. His eyes stayed locked on her. He was the hidden observer, the only witness, the only one who could decide what happened next. And somewhere deep inside, he already knew. He could not let her fall into their hands. The factory was a beast that never rested. Every machine moved with purpose. Every gear turned with hunger. It was a world of sharp teeth and heavy claws made of iron. And in the middle of this world walked the alien girl, small and fragile, unaware of how close death always waited. Jack moved quickly down the steel stairs from the walkway. His boots clanged with every step, but nobody paid attention. The noise of the machines drowned out everything. Sparks rained near his head as welders worked, but his eyes stayed fixed on her glowing figure. She was walking deeper into danger. The air grew hotter as she stepped closer to the giant crushers, the biggest machines in the entire factory. They were like jaws of monsters, each one slamming down with earth-shaking force. One mistake and a body would vanish under tons of steel. Jack's chest tightened. She didn't know. She couldn't know. The girl tilted her head as if listening to the heavy rhythm of the crushers. To her it was only sound, loud, frightening, but still only sound. She didn't understand the meaning of it. She didn't know that the rhythm was death itself. Jack tried to shout, "Stop!" His voice disappeared in the roar of the machines. Not even the workers next to him heard it. He cursed and began pushing his way through the narrow paths between conveyors. His eyes stayed locked on her as she moved closer and closer to the danger. The glow of her skin reflected off the metal walls. She looked like a ghost wandering through fire. The crushers lifted again, their steel arms rising high into the smoky air. Jack's breath caught. The timing was perfect and terrible. In only seconds, they would slam down. And the girl was walking straight into their shadow. Jack's heart raced faster. His throat went dry. She stopped for a moment. Her glowing fingers brushed against the cold surface of a control panel. The silver lines on her arms flickered faintly, like whispers of electricity. The machines responded with a strange groan as if they felt her presence. But that connection didn't save her. It only distracted her. The heavy shadow of the crusher spread across the floor, reaching for her small feet. The ground shook as the machine prepared to strike. Jack's eyes widened. "No, no, no," he muttered under his breath. He pushed harder, shoving past another worker who shouted angrily but didn't stop him. Jack didn't care. The world had shrunk to one single point, the girl in the shadow of death. The crusher's warning light flashed red. Its gears ground louder. Its steel arm began to fall. The girl didn't move. She simply looked up, her bright alien eyes reflecting the glow of the red light. There was no fear in them, only confusion, like a child staring at lightning for the first time. Jack's pulse exploded. "Run!" He tried again, but his voice was lost in the chaos. He saw it happen in slow motion, the massive steel claw falling, the air screaming as it cut down, the ground trembling with its weight, and the girl, still frozen, her glow so small under the shadow of the machine. Jack's legs moved before his mind did. He sprinted, boots slamming against the floor, his breath burning in his chest. Every step felt too slow. Every second felt too heavy, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. The machine roared as it fell. Jack reached out, his arms stretching through the smoke, through the sparks. His hand closed around her thin, glowing wrist, warm, alive, trembling. And then, with every muscle screaming, he yanked her back. The crusher slammed into the floor behind them with a thunder that shook the entire factory. Sparks burst in a storm of fire. Metal shrieked. Dust rose in choking clouds. Jack fell onto the ground, pulling the girl into his chest as debris scattered around them. His ears rang with the sound. His heart hammered against his ribs, harder than the machines themselves. For a long moment, he couldn't breathe. The girl lay still in his arms, silent. Then slowly she turned her glowing eyes up to him. Jack stared back. Her face was strange, alien, yet so full of innocence it nearly broke him. She had been seconds from death, and she didn't even know it. His hands shook as he loosened his grip. He wanted to speak, but the words stuck in his throat. All around, them. The machines continued their endless work, uncaring, blind. Workers kept moving, none of them realizing what had just happened. It was as if the factory had swallowed the moment whole, leaving only Jack and the girl inside a bubble of silence. Jack swallowed hard. She blinked at him once, twice, and then softly, she tilted her head and placed her small, glowing hand on his chest. The silver lines on her skin pulsed faintly, and for the briefest second Jack felt something, like a spark inside his own body. A connection. He froze. This girl was not just strange. She was something else, something powerful, something tied to this factory in ways he couldn't understand. And yet, in that moment, she was also just a child who would have died without him. Jack's jaw tightened. His decision was clear. He couldn't ignore her anymore. He couldn't pretend she wasn't real. He was part of this now, whether he wanted it or not. The sound of the crusher still echoed in Jack's ears. It had missed the alien girl by only a breath. The floor still trembled from the strike, and dust floated through the air like smoke after a fire. For Jack, the world had slowed, stretched into a single sharp instant, the moment between life and death, and he knew he had almost been too late. Jack's chest rose and fell in heavy waves. His arms were tight around the girl, pulling her small glowing body close. His heart hammered so loud he thought she might hear it. He could still feel the warmth of her skin against his hand, a warmth that did not belong in this cold steel world. She blinked up at him, her glowing eyes wide. There was no scream, no cry, no tears, only silence. Jack's throat was dry. Words wouldn't come. For years he had worked in this factory, surrounded by danger every single day. He had seen men lose limbs, seen machines crush steel like paper. He had grown used to fear. But this was different. This was not a worker making a mistake. This was a child, an alien child, and she had almost been turned to nothing. Jack loosened his grip slowly, but he didn't let go completely. His eyes scanned the area around them. No one had noticed. The workers kept moving, their faces blank, their bodies trapped in endless routine. The machines roared on, careless, as if nothing had happened. But something had happened, something huge. The girl's small hand moved. She touched Jack's arm, her glowing fingers trembling slightly. The silver lines on her skin flickered like lightning trapped under glass. Jack froze. A strange feeling surged through him, sharp, cold, then warm. For a second he thought he heard something. Not words, not sound, but a pulse, a rhythm, deep, inside his mind, like someone knocking on a locked door. His eyes widened. Was she trying to speak to him? The girl tilted her head. Her lips parted, but no voice came out. Only her eyes spoke, filled with questions, confusion, and something else. Trust. Jack swallowed hard. He had no idea what she was, no idea why she was here. But in that moment, one thing was clear. She trusted him, and that scared him more than the machines. He pulled himself to his feet, keeping one hand on her shoulder. His eyes darted around the factory. Nobody could see her. Nobody reacted. It was like she was invisible to them, but not to him. Only him. That thought dug into his mind like a blade. Why me? The girl wobbled as she stood, her small body still shaking from the near crush. Jack steadied her. She looked fragile, yet she had survived. That alone felt like a miracle. But miracles never lasted long here. A sharp alarm rang through the factory, high and shrill. Red lights flashed above the crushers, warning of a malfunction. Workers shouted, running to check the machines. Sparks burst from a broken panel. The air smelled of burning wires. Jack's blood ran cold. The girl's glow had done something. He remembered how she had touched the panel earlier. The machines had responded to her. And now they were breaking down. If anyone connected her to this chaos, she wouldn't just be in danger. So would he. Jack bent low, his voice rough, almost a whisper. Stay close. Don't move away from me. He didn't know if she understood, but her wide, glowing eyes never left his face. She nodded once, almost too small to notice, but it was enough. He grabbed her hand. Her skin was warm, too warm, like she carried fire inside. He ignored the strange feeling and pulled her into the shadows between two tall machines. The workers ran past them, blind to the glowing child right in front of their eyes. Jack's heart pounded harder. It felt like the world was holding its breath, waiting to see what he would do. The girl pressed closer to him, trembling. For the first time, Jack saw fear in her face. Real fear. Her earlier silence had been confusion, wonder. But now she knew. She had almost died, and the truth was finally in her eyes. Jack knelt beside her, keeping his voice low. You don't belong here, he said softly, though he knew she couldn't understand the words. If they find you, they'll... He stopped. He couldn't even finish the thought. Her small, glowing hand gripped his shirt, as if refusing to let go. And for Jack, that was the moment everything changed. He had gone from a silent observer to a savior, from a factory worker to the only human who could see her, from a man who lived in shadows to the one person standing between her and the jaws of steel. It wasn't just a rescue anymore. It was a choice. Jack knew his life would never be the same. The girl stared at him, her bright alien eyes unblinking. And though she spoke no words, Jack felt the meaning anyway. Don't leave me. The factory roared. On. The red lights flashed. Workers shouted. But in that heart-stopping moment, Jack made his decision. He would protect her, no matter what it cost. The echo of the crusher still thundered in the distance. Every strike shook the walls. Every slam rattled the air. But for Jack, the real storm was inside his chest. His heart had not slowed since the moment he had pulled the alien girl away from death. His hands still trembled, his breath came rough. She had been seconds, no less than seconds, from being crushed. He could still feel the rush of that instant, the weight of her fragile wrist in his grip, the force with which he had yanked her back. That moment had stretched into forever. A single choice between life and nothing, and he had chosen. The girl stood close to him now, her glowing skin trembling faintly in the darkness between the machines. Her wide eyes never left him. There was no sound from her lips, but her silence was louder than a scream. Jack swallowed hard. He should walk away. That would be the smart choice. Leave her. Pretend he had seen nothing. Let the guards, or the scientists, or whoever was looking for her deal with her fate. But he couldn't. Not after what he had seen. Not after what he had done. The red alarm lights still flashed above, warning of malfunction. Sparks danced in the smoke, making shadows crawl along the walls. The workers rushed past, shoving one another as they tried to reset the systems. None of them noticed the girl. None of them noticed Jack holding her hand. It was as if the world wanted to keep this secret between them. Jack crouched lower, pulling her close. "We need to move," he muttered under his breath. His voice was rough, low, almost like he was speaking to himself. She tilted her head. Her glowing eyes blinked slowly, but she did not resist. When he pulled her hand, she followed. Her steps were soft, lighter than the hum of the machines. She left faint shining prints on the dirty floor. Jack tried not to look at them, but his stomach twisted. Someone might see. Someone might follow. They slipped into a narrow corridor, away from the crashing jaws of the crushers. Jack's boots made heavy sounds against the steel, but the girl was silent, ghost-like. He glanced at her, still hardly believing she was real. And then, behind them, a metallic groan. A hiss of pressure. The sound of a machine shifting into motion. Jack turned his head sharply. His blood ran cold. One of the conveyor arms had malfunctioned. Sparks burst from its joints. It swung wildly, heavy and sharp like an axe. "Workers," shouted, scattering away. But the girl, she had stopped in the middle of the path. Her glowing eyes stared at the machine as if it were alive. She didn't move. She didn't run. Jack's breath caught. The arm was coming down fast. "Move!" he roared, louder than he had ever shouted in his life. But she didn't understand. Her body froze, her silver-lined arms trembling. Jack lunged. His legs pumped, his chest burned. Every muscle in his body screamed as he threw himself forward. His arms wrapped around her glowing frame, and in one single desperate motion, he twisted his body and dragged her away. The conveyor arm slammed into the floor where she had been standing. The sound was deafening. The ground shook like thunder. Jack landed hard, his back slamming against the metal floor. The girl was in his arms, pressed tight against his chest. Pain shot through him, but he didn't let go. Not until the air cleared, not until the machine stilled. He opened his eyes, gasping. She was safe. Her glowing eyes looked up at him, wide and bright, filled with something new. Not just confusion, not just fear, but recognition. She understood. She knew he had saved her, not once, but twice. Jack's heart pounded harder. His throat felt tight. He didn't want her gratitude. He didn't even know if he could handle it. But the way she looked at him now made something shift deep inside him. For years, Jack had lived without meaning. The factory was routine. Work, eat, sleep, repeat. He was just another worker in the machine of the world. But now this child, this alien, she made every second matter, and that terrified him. The girl's small hand reached up. She touched his face gently, her glowing fingers, brushing his rough cheek. The silver lines on her skin pulsed softly like a heartbeat. Jack froze. A strange warmth spread through him again, stronger this time. For a brief instant he felt her fear. Sharp, endless, like a wound that never healed. And he felt her trust, fragile but real. His breath caught. This was no ordinary child. She carried something inside her, something dangerous, something powerful. Jack sat up slowly, pulling her with him. Around them, the factory noise grew louder again. Workers shouted, alarms rang, the red light still flashed. But in the center of it all, Jack felt like they were alone. He looked down at her glowing eyes. "You don't understand me," he whispered, "but I won't let you die here." The girl tilted her head. Her small hand stayed in his. She didn't speak, but she didn't need to. Jack knew what her silence meant. He had chosen once when he pulled her from the crusher. He had chosen again when he dragged her from the conveyor. And now there was no turning back. He was her rescuer, her shield, her only chance. And the world would not forgive him for it. The chaos of the factory rumbled on. Alarms flashing red, machines roaring, workers shouting as they tried to fix the damage. But for Jack, the noise faded into the background. The only thing he could see was her, the alien girl. She sat in his arms, silent, her small body glowing faintly in the smoky light. Her skin shimmered like water touched by moonlight. The silver lines across her arms pulsed softly as though alive. And her eyes, those eyes were unlike anything Jack had ever seen. Bright, endless, like looking into a night sky filled with stars. Jack felt his throat tighten. He had seen many things in his life. Battlefields, broken men, burning cities. But nothing had ever shaken him like this child. She was not human. She was something far beyond his world. And yet in her eyes, he saw something painfully familiar. Fear, loneliness, hope. Jack swallowed hard. His hand loosened from around her, but he didn't let go completely. He didn't dare. The girl tilted her head, studying him. Her glowing eyes locked onto his face, searching for something. It was not the look of a creature seeing a stranger. It was the look of someone trying to understand. Jack shifted uneasily. "What are you?" he whispered, though he knew she wouldn't answer. The girl's lips parted slightly, but no sound came. Instead, her glowing hand lifted, trembling, and touched his chest, right over his heart. Jack froze. The silver lines on her skin flared brighter. A strange warmth pulsed into him like a current flowing through his veins. For a split second, the factory vanished from his mind. He was somewhere else. Inside her fear. Inside her silence. He felt it. Not in words, but in raw emotion. The endless running, the hunger of machines chasing her, the sharp terror of being alone in a world that wanted to crush her. Jack's breath caught. His eyes widened, and then just as quickly it was gone. The warmth faded. The silver lines dimmed. He was back in the factory, the noise crashing over him again. The girl lowered her hand, her glowing eyes never blinking. Jack's hands trembled. He stared at her, heart racing. You showed me," he muttered. "Somehow you showed me." Of course, she didn't answer. She only stared, her gaze sharp yet soft, alien yet innocent. Jack ran a hand down his face, wiping away the sweat. This was madness. She wasn't just strange. She was dangerous. Whatever power lived inside her, it connected to the machines. To him. Maybe even more. If the wrong people discovered this, she would never survive. But when Jack looked into her, eyes again, all his fear twisted into something else. Responsibility. He had saved her twice. He had felt her fear. And now, those glowing eyes were locked on him as if he was the only anchor she had. Jack's jaw tightened. He hated that look. He didn't deserve it. He wasn't a hero. He was just a tired man, broken by years of work and war. And yet, she looked at him as though he was her entire world. "Don't do that," he whispered, his voice rough. "Don't look at me like I'm anything." But she didn't stop. Her eyes stayed fixed on his, and Jack felt himself breaking. For years he had lived in shadows, letting the world pass him by. He had built walls around his heart. But this girl, this strange, glowing child, was tearing them down with just her gaze. Jack looked away, clenching his fists. He couldn't let this happen. He couldn't afford to care. Not in this place. Not when caring could get them both killed. But when he looked back, her eyes were still there. Still waiting, still trusting. His chest ached. Around them, the workers were starting to calm the machines. The alarms grew softer. The chaos faded into the usual rhythm of the factory. But Jack knew things would never be usual again. Not for him. Not after seeing her eyes. He stood slowly, pulling her up with him. She stumbled but held his hand tightly, as though afraid he would vanish if she let go. Jack glanced around. Nobody noticed her. Nobody noticed him. To the world, she didn't exist. But to him, she was all that existed. He took a deep breath, lowering his voice. "You're not safe here," he said. "I don't know what you are, but I know one thing. You don't belong in this place." The girl tilted her head again, her glowing eyes softening. She didn't understand his words, but she understood his tone, and once again she gave him that look, sharp, unblinking, as though piercing into his very soul. Jack looked away quickly, but it was too late. The damage was done. He was already tied to her, bound not by choice, but by her eyes. They were not the eyes of a stranger. They were the eyes of someone asking him for something more than rescue, for protection, for trust, for a promise. And Jack knew deep inside that he could not refuse, not anymore. The factory had returned to its endless rhythm. The alarms were silenced. The machines moved again with their heavy jaws and grinding gears. Workers shouted, tools clanged, sparks rained down like fire. To everyone else it was just another night of labor, but to Jack, nothing was normal anymore. The alien girl walked close beside him, her glowing hand clutching his tightly. She moved quietly, her steps small, her glowing prints fading behind her. No one else looked at her. No one else reacted. It was still only him, only Jack who could see her. And the question burned inside his head. Why me? He led her deeper into the shadows, away from the busiest paths. His mind spun with every detail he noticed. Her skin shimmered faintly, almost like light underwater. The silver lines on her arms pulsed gently, as if they carried hidden power. And her eyes, those endless glowing eyes, kept studying everything, with a mix of fear and wonder. But what struck Jack most were the marks. Now that he had time to look more closely, he realized the silver lines were not natural. They weren't scars. They weren't veins. They were patterns. Intricate designs carved into her skin, curling like circuitry. Jack's chest tightened. He had seen marks like these before, not on a child, not on anyone living, but on machines. On prototypes built for war. The thought made his blood run cold. He remembered the war years when scientists had whispered about projects to merge flesh and machine. He had seen broken bodies, men who had been tested on left half alive, half dead. It had been cruel, inhuman. He had thought it was over. He had hoped it was over. But now, here she was. A child. Jack's stomach twisted. Was she one of them? An experiment? A creation? The girl noticed his gaze. She pulled her glowing arm closer to her chest, hiding the silver lines as if ashamed. Her eyes dimmed slightly. Jack felt guilt stab through him. He hadn't meant to frighten her. He knelt down quickly, softening his voice. "It's all right," he whispered, though he knew she couldn't understand the words. "I'm not going to hurt you." Her eyes lifted to his, shimmering with uncertainty. Jack sighed and rubbed his face with his dirty hands. He didn't know what to believe anymore. She was alive, warm, breathing, clearly more than just a machine. But the marks proved she was, connected to something far larger, something darker. And then he noticed something else. On her neck, hidden beneath her glowing hair, there was a small symbol. A circle with lines through it. Jack's eyes narrowed. He recognized it instantly. It was the emblem of the consortium, the organization that funded most of the war machines. They were ruthless, cold. They treated soldiers like tools, humans like resources. If she carried their mark, then she was not just lost. She was hunted. Jack's chest grew heavy. He looked at her glowing eyes again, softer now, filled with quiet trust. She didn't understand what that symbol meant. She didn't know what kind of danger it carried. But he did. If the consortium found her, they wouldn't care that she was a child. They would take her back. They would lock her away. They would break her apart piece by piece until there was nothing left but wires and silence. Jack clenched his fists. His stomach burned with anger. He had spent years trying to forget the war, trying to bury the memories of cruelty. But the marks on her skin, the emblem on her neck, they dragged it all back. She wasn't just an alien child wandering into a factory. She was proof that the consortium was still making monsters. And Jack knew one thing for certain. If they were searching for her, they wouldn't stop. The girl tugged at his hand gently, pulling him from his thoughts. She pointed toward the far end of the factory where a small exit door stood in the shadows. Her glowing eyes pleaded silently. She wanted to leave. Jack hesitated. His heart pulled in two directions. If he tried to help her escape, he would be branded a traitor. If he abandoned her, she would be captured. Or worse. The decision weighed heavy. But then she looked at him again. Those eyes, wide, bright, trusting. Jack exhaled slowly. He knew the truth now. She wasn't safe here. She wasn't safe anywhere. Not as long as the consortium existed, and whether he liked it or not, she was his responsibility. He stood, pulling her gently with him. All right, he muttered under his breath, more to himself than to her. We'll find a way out, but I swear, if they're after you, then they're after me too. The girl didn't answer. She only squeezed his hand tighter. As they walked toward the exit, Jack felt the weight of her hidden truth pressing down on him. She was not just a lost child. She was evidence. She was a secret too dangerous to live, and he was the only one who could keep her alive.